Welcome, everyone. You are tuning into Engaging Walk. My name is Drake.
And my name is Rubie.
We believe in the power of walking together and talking together.
It is a simple act to stay connected, and movement is key.
So this week, we are going to be discussing our second part of our family values set. And so this is going to be a really important topic, one that we are very passionate about. And we took our engaging walk in El Cajon today. We took Boba to a new dog park. It was awesome. She got out a lot of energy. There's a lot of changes happening in our family. Things that we're excited to tell you about, things that we cannot just reveal. But stay tuned for that. And so yeah, let's we'll go right into the content. So right now, I just wanted to say we're like 2 days late, and last week we didn't do an episode because we've been having a lot of, like I mentioned, a lot of changes. Moving and things that we're going to reveal soon.
And then work demand as well.
Yeah, so basically I got put on underway and it went longer than expected. And yeah, because I'm active duty in the Navy right now. And so that's a challenge that we face. That's part of our family culture, is taking on challenges. And I think that we do it as good as anybody out there. But of course, there's always room for improvement. So that's why we tend to focus very carefully and put a lot of emphasis on our family culture. So last week, or the last episode, we discussed a lot of concepts about developing your family culture. And on this time, we're going to be talking a lot about like
implementing the family culture.
Yeah, implementing that family culture and what that actually might look like on a day-to-day basis, going into each month, each week, and then like planning out, future events. So you want to share some of your first thoughts on that, Rubie?
I think it's for implement, we did the first part, which is the overview and the forming the culture. And now it's just like the steps that make it happen. And when we discussed about the content, implement, I was thinking of, the memories that I have in the childhood. Like my mom, she will ask me to help her in the kitchen when I was, I think, like elementary age, or even like younger than that. Because I remember as a young kid, I was very picky about cleanliness. So if someone like clean the class is not done, like well done, you can see like some marks on there, I will clean it again. So that's the reason why that, it's still imprinted into my memory. But what I try to say is that when a family member invite the child into a routine or into the way that they do life, the child will remember very well. And then it just embedded into the child. And that's how I feel like it is a healthy way to implement the culture, because the child gets to see it and doing things with the family members instead of like hear a theory, is doing it with. And there's a very like famous quote, like, teach me and I forget, but if you do it with me, I remember. So I think that will be a powerful tool for implement the culture.
Yeah, I think, especially if you have a family where your goal is children. Your goal as a married couple is like, hey, we're going to have X amount of children, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. And the legacy that you carry on with your children, and it makes me think of it was kind of like a meme, but I think there's a lot of truth to it. That there was a mother that was constantly on her son about like, hey, I carried you for 9 months. You can't do anything right. Like, why can't you just do this? Like, go away. I don't need you right now. Just sort of just like belittling and not showing appreciation for her son. And then it flashed, forward to her being elderly, and she's like, I don't know why my son doesn't want to hang out with me. And that's a sad reality that I think, maybe whatever number of parents it is out there that experience that, but that could be bad family culture, that you're not introducing your children into activities like how, my wife was just talking about, and getting them involved into the family and not being we have to treat children like children, but
It's true. Yeah.
but there's expectations that like they can contribute to the household. They can be treated like members of the family, as opposed to I don't know,
Just
like,
be on the outsider looking in.
right.
And well, talking about my background, which is Asian family, and also, my experience as an educator, children, they loved when you ask them for help. They loved it because they feel value and they feel like, oh, I can do things, I can help. And yeah, so I feel like if we, because, my mom usually, I'm grateful for my mom because she's like, if you even cannot help me, you can just look, So I learned by looking at her a lot. Up to like this day, like if I look at some, and I think that is how my observation skill got, stronger throughout the year because, from young, she asked me like, if you cannot help, you look and you learn from it. And then, yeah, shout out to my mom. But also like, even something like Asian, when we have a high expectations for the children, I'm like, oh, they're still young, they cannot do it. Or like, you have to do it the first time perfectly, which is impossible for a child. And but yeah, I feel like what I learned from as an educator is that you introduce something new to them with your excitement, they can feel it, and then also like help them to success and to succeed instead of like fail them,
Yeah.
So that is something that I learned along the way, and I wish my mom could be that too. But she does a great job, and I learned so much from her. And one thing that I know, this is not a child, but like Boba is our dog, and I exposed her to so many things. So the first thing I exposed her to was a vacuum cleaner, and dog hates that. But I think she was the first. She was home for the first week, and you have to vacuum. So I told her like it's gonna be loud. Careful, wait, and then first I let her sniff, the vacuum and be around with that. So prepare your child and then slowly move it into, and then, build it up for success. And as they see you do it with them, they feel more comfortable in doing it. And then, the more you give, you trust them, it's again, back to trust and there to guide them. I feel like that will set your children to be successful in the long run, because now they will be grow up with knowing who they are, be confident in what they do, and the trust, like, hey, if I messed up, it's okay because my mom tell me that, and I think that is very, very crucial for the development of a family, especially the culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the earlier discussions that Rubie and I had about our children, and right now we don't have any children
yet.
But we are always talking about like, what would we do in this situation? What would we do in this situation? And just being on the same page in terms of like how we want to raise them. And one of the things that we both discussed was just being able to enable our children to have entrepreneurial mindset and to invest and to show them like, hey, this is how you use money. This is how you budget. This is how you save. The money that you earn, we are going to show you what you're going to do with the money. Mm-hmm. So that way, when they get older, they know, hey, wow, mom and dad were really, really looking out for me, and checking in with them, constantly checking in with them. Hey, check out, like, I know that you're 15, 16 years old, but at some point you're going to be out on the world on your own, and you're going to be making your own decisions and being an adult. And we just want to make sure that you are prepared to take that on and not fail, and that's basically what Rubie was talking about with Boba. It's the same concept where you don't let them fail. People are going to, people can fail on their own, but you just guide them and work with them as best as you can to make sure that, hey, even when they do fail, like they can bounce back. And they know that they have you to go back to. And it's a crucial thing that happens with Boba. You know, like our dog is, you know, raising her up and guiding her. And it's a new challenge, and more obviously a greater challenge with children.
For sure, yeah.
But it's one that, like, I can attest to what she was talking about with expectations, where, you know, working with students on my own when I was teaching is like, the expectations is most of it, and then making them, or at least a good portion, and then the other of it is just like making sure that they adhere to it and making sure that your standards don't drop. And you always hold everybody accountable to the standard. Like, hey, this is, as a family, this is how we operate. You know, we check in daily. We have dinner together. You know, if you're going to go out and do things, like, we need to know X, Y, and Z, and having those boundaries, having those expectations. And, you know, that begins with the husband and the wife also.
It's true. It's correct.
You know, so as long as the husband and the wife have that, that foundation, which is what we talked about last week, the family is just an extension of that. You know, that goes to Boba. We're both on the same page with her. How are we going to discipline her? Make sure that what she's eating, how to deal with her when she gets sick. All these things we take care of together, and we communicate, make sure we're on the same page, and then move forward. You know, and yeah, it's the same thing with children, but it's definitely a greater challenge.
Yeah, because, you know, it's mini us. So I don't know. I heard so many stories that, you know, they said like, I didn't say, like, the mom recognized herself in her daughter, but without telling her or teaching her daughter something that she did in the past. And it's freaked me out. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna introduce Jesus to the child very early at young age for the redemption, because I have a wild childhood, guys.
Yeah, I did too. Probably in a different way, because I grew up in
different, you know,
different environment.
Yeah, but we always have stories. But, you know, yeah, it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be good. And I think for implement, again, it's built on trust. It built on, you know, we go back to our, you know, the culture, trust, love, honesty, and, you know. So I think when we share that with the children, and also, especially when opportunity comes up, for example, like, the child, I think children, they learn how to lie to us very quickly, but we don't have to teach them. It's just something that, you know, they potentially just have it. And, you know, like, that is a great opportunity, instead of scolding them, you know, but like telling them, hey, remember the culture that we agree on? We talk honestly to each other, and, you know, even we don't tolerate white lies. And so I think by circumstances in life, you just have your culture implements, you know, day by day, and it's continued to grow as, you know, the family grows.
Yeah, I think a lot of those things are really great examples of, like, hey, this is what our family culture looks like. And some of the things that you definitely want to establish those guidelines on it, the recap some of the things that we talked about last time, is what respect looks like in the household. Are we respecting each other? Are we using respectful language? How do we deal with, like, conflict? How do we deal with disagreements? How do we deal with changes, like things that are, you know, you can never account for everything that happens in the family, everything that happens in life. But rolling with punches and rolling through, like, difficult circumstances and changes and things that happen in your life can really, you know, be a great blessing to the family. Like, for us, for example, recently we just had a big move, and we only lived in that place, our previous place, for more like a year.
But a year, like, and then a few months.
And then, you know, this, like, the Yeah, it was over a year. Yeah, that's right.
A bit, yeah.
And but that was our first home together, and having all of my things and my wife's things and moving all these things together with other issues that are happening with us in our families is like a huge challenge, and you don't really realize like how much of an adjustment that these situations can have. You know, when you compound that with like, you know, maybe things that might happen in your family, things that might happen in the world, things that might happen at your job, that all just come into play all at once. Well, that's where your family culture is really going to come into handy. That's where your family culture is really going to shine through. When you have like, okay, you know what? Things are tough right now, but we've made it through difficult circumstances before. That was how we did it. And I can rely on this person, and I know how to rely on this person. You know, and like that's like what Rubie was talking about, like is trust. That's a really, you know, once you go through things like that together, but you know, you have to have that family culture set up. You know, always using respectful language, dealing with conflicts, all those things. What do you think would be the most important aspect of that in terms of like setting up the family culture and like a real application of like, for me, I think it's dealing with conflict, things that happen. Well, maybe not the most important, but it's definitely a really important one.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so if you were to give like a new married couple a piece of advice, and you're like just something that they can actually do as opposed to an idea, like what would you say to them? Like for an example, like don't go to bed angry. Don't, you know, save Friday nights for date nights, things like that. Like what would be your concrete piece of advice that you could give a married couple?
Oh, so now it's for the family?
Yeah, like for setting up their culture.
I would say for the family, I think, you know, this home is where you belong to. Because, I don't know, this, for me, it just popped up into my head. Like, the children, they can go and have fun all at the park, at the playground, at the friends, family, whatever. But this is the home that they feel belong to. Like they feel valued, they feel loved, and they feel this is where I'm supposed to be. And I feel that such a belonging that whether the child knows it or not is embedded in everyone. And I feel like that's just connected to the old apartment, because you know, like we talk about it, like when we move away from the apartment, like we move to the new one, I've just felt loved or a hard time to, you know, move on, because that's have so much, memory and everything. And I slowly realized that, because I feel belonging there.
Yeah.
And I feel like that because we create a culture of, hey, you matter, and just simply, you know, go through day by day with each other. And of course we have ups and downs for sure. And all crazy time with Boba too, training her there. So for her is like her home too, you know.
Yeah, it was tough on her too, for sure.
Yeah, it was tough on her because I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. So Drake was not there, but I was there, close by to the neighborhood, and I was just having an idea like, what about take her on a walk? The walk that she gets to know since she's, you know, with us.
Yeah, baby.
And the baby. And then she remember exactly where we were, because her face lifted up. And even like, I was like, okay, let's sneak back to the apartment, to the parking lot. She remember, and she went up the stairs exactly in front of the door. Of course, we cannot go in. But, you know, like for her is she knows that she belongs to that place, and which now she loved the new place, but then you know, it's just something that you can tell. Like I think the feeling of belonging to the family That is the most important to the children, or even the parents too.
Yeah, I definitely have these moments when I'm like, I almost envision myself going back up those stairs, like going to the door and opening it, and then seeing her like doing her little bobbing thing, like, "Oh, you're home? Oh, it's you? Hi," you know.
Yeah.
So that's a really good one, sense of belonging. So what would you say gave you a sense of like what was like one of the main things that gave you a sense of belonging at our old apartment? Like what what was some of the things that established that for you?
I think the things that we do to connect, like when I'm home, like you will open the door and then welcome me in, and of course, she's right there. Or sometimes we like before boba, like we will sit on the couch and just trying to connect, and then give each other a hug, and then what is that? Oh, we make dinner together.
Yeah.
So those are little things that we do together is make me feel like the sense of belonging.
Yeah, to echo that, I think one of the things that has been really wonderful about our marriage, time, a lot of time. And when I was underway for 2 weeks, I was so without my best friend, and that was really tough to be without my best friend every day.
Same here.
I think there's other things that can kind of distract you. Like, okay, I'm at work, blah blah blah. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna read this book, but nothing beats being home with my wife and Boba, and to make that, and be home, just being home together and doing those things. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense of establishing that sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that I was thinking of that would be really like crucial to establishing like your family culture is that once you have a lot of like your routine set up, and you have like a sort of like an identity of like who we are as a family and like what we stand for, is doing new things together. And I think that we learned a lot from each other going on lots of different trips together. And I think doing new things together and challenging each other with our personal, the things that we love to do as ourselves and in our for ourselves. Like, so for example, like for me, playing music. For Rubie, she's really into worship and reading the Bible, and then like sharing those goals together and sharing those activities together and doing new things together really strengthens the bond and that sense of belonging to each other.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of a conversation that we had when we were dating, where I'm pretty sure it was like Danny Silk gave this analogy of, hey, doing life together is essentially like a really big gamble, because let's say it's like almost like as if you're meeting at an airport, and one person is like, "Oh, I'm about to go to Denver," and the other person's like, "Well, actually, I was going to go to, Malaysia," and like there's totally opposite directions from where each other is going, but making sure that you're going on a flight with somebody that has the same sort of destination as you. Oh, bless you. She's over here sneezing. Making sure that you have like the same destination in mind. And I told her, I was like, well, I think sometimes like that, your destinations are never really going to match up entirely coherently. But maybe it's just worth it if you have somebody that, hey, neither of us have been to Vancouver, but we both want to, let's both go to Vancouver together and take that on together.
Yeah. And I think when you have, children and you involve them into the things that you do, and instead of, again, say like, oh, you're too young for that, give them something that they can do. Like, even for children, if they just able to like draw a picture on that, you let them do it. Or like if they just, let's say like you are planning something, and they cannot come up with an idea, which is totally fine. But invite the child in and then let them, okay, so this is the planning. Maybe you can just draw of, our family on it, or if the child can write, you can write our names on it or just your name on it. They have a sense of doing things to you, again, a belonging, also like doing things with you. Because if the child learn how to involve with the family, implement the culture, they do it together. They build the culture is built in them, from young, instead of waiting for them until like they finish, elementary, or they finish the high school. Is you have like 5 years, you have 10 years gap of not doing thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can hang out with them doing sports, but then something that matters to you. For example, like I would have my children worship with me. Maybe the children cannot sing yet, or they can hum yet. They can just dance, But the beautiful thing is that they see parents how pray together. How the parents pray together, how the parents worship together, how the parents read the Bible together, how the parents, even like discuss things with each other and plan things with each other. They learn from that, and because they be part of it, now they learn from you.
Right.
And they take on that, and so if you, and even like you can empower them. You say, okay, now can you take this steps? Can you, after drawing your name, can you think something that we can do as a family? And as when you're planning things with them, so slowly they get to not just as a listener. Now they participate in that, and when they're old enough, they can be part of it. So instead of eliminate your child ability, empower them, and trust them can do things. Because children, well, study said that, children from 0, I think, up to 10, they are super creative. They're all genius.
Yeah, super creative. Yeah, there's a study that they go from like 98% to 2% genius level, like creativity, to the inverse.
Yeah.
Once they get to like 5th grade or something like that.
Well, they get up to like, I think, campus people or something.
Oh, yeah, campus, level. I think, that's just like a different commentary about like the education system. But yeah, the fact remains that your children at that young age have a lot of creativity to them. They haven't seen how people do things. So, and in the human mind is a wonderful thing. And if they don't know like the limitations of what things can be done by, or how things are done, they can imprint their own sort of like vision on what they're doing or what needs to be done creatively without those restrictions. So, that's where it really comes into play. And I think that like, my wife brings up a lot of really valid points, and bringing the child into what you're doing. And it reminds me of like this, this idea that like you are what you do. You are what you continuously do, and that creates your habits and that creates your character. And they're constantly seeing their parents working through their monthly goals, their weekly agenda. They'll get a sense. They might not be the most naturally ordered or the most naturally like, great planners, but they'll see, hey, there's value to that. Yeah. This is what my mom and dad do. And they might even get a greater sense of like, okay, this thing that I wanted, might help them grow up to see like, hey, this thing that I wanted to do, we can't do, but not because my mom and dad are just being jerks, but I see them plan. I know that when they have things on the schedule, they abide by it. They do that. And if they're telling me that they can't because of this other thing, then I can take their word for it, that they're not just shutting me down. And the whole family can see the schedule and see, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. This is how we're going to work through these issues. This is how we're going to work through the different things that we want to do as a family.
And I think like also teach the child to be, be a powerful person, instead of, just follow. But they can, of course, children, they are dependent. So most of the time they have to understand, the rules and the culture first. But of course, we're not going to like not listen to them, being me a powerful, like, okay, if they see a problem, what are they going to do about it? How are they going to respond and come up with the solution instead of just share your thought and, complain without coming up with a solution, So I think, that is something that, I think this is the three key things that, for solid for implement the culture of the family. And of course, again, it's not just 1 day or 2 days. It's like a journey of implement that with your children and your partners too.
Yeah, I think as you go through each day, you have to constantly set that standard of like this is how we operate as a family. This is the expectations. This is how we're going to meet them. And hey, times are going to happen where we're going to fall short, but that doesn't mean that the standard changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true.
Whether it comes to respectful language, whether it comes to respecting each other's boundaries, whether it comes to honesty, whether it comes to, anything that can happen in the family of, making sure that the baseline is adhered to, then, you have to decide that as your family of like, hey, this is what we want to make sure is always happening and always keep that, and then like for us, like we, like I know like when I let Rubie down with the schedule, things like that. And then we just try to bounce back. But also I think what's really important to also keep in mind throughout this whole process is patience. Being patient with each other and assuming the best. We talked about it in previous episodes, but assuming the best, being patient with one another can really go a long way when you're making these adjustments, when you're making these efforts to become a unified family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Well, having said that, let's go to the assignment for this week.
Yeah. So for this week, what we want to do for our assignment is to reflect back on our mission statements. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, your family mission statement can be just like a 3 to 4 sentence mission statement that says like, hey, what are we trying to do as a family? What does it mean to be a Martinez in our family? What are we trying to do? Who are we trying to support? And how do we know that we're doing it? So within that, we want to make 3 concrete steps for this week that will get us to grow, making our family goal and our family mission statement a reality. So for example, if your family mission statement is that we want to support our community and in every way that we can, maybe come up with a goal or a concrete step of how you can help out your community. Maybe starting a business, or maybe even something as simple as volunteering at some, looking for volunteer opportunities in your community, things like that. And if you have like faith-based mission statements, how are you going to reach those faith-based mission statements? For example, if you really want to get closer to God, or if you really want to get better at worshiping, what are some things that you can do to make that a reality? Just like those little tiny concrete steps, things that are measurable, things that are actionable, things that you can realistically do with where you are at right now, and with the whole idea of being progress and moving forward. So with that, we are going to be wrapping up for this week, and we will be seeing you guys next week on Monday. We're going to have a new episode posted, and we want to thank you guys for tuning in. We've got a whole lot of people coming in and listening to Engaging Walk from all around the United States. We love you guys. Thank you so much for listening and taking time out of your day to reflect on us on taking an engaging walk with your spouse or your loved one, and growing together and creating strong bonds between each other.
Yeah.
And strong connections. So we are also on Facebook, we are also on Instagram and on YouTube. And if you give us a like, share, subscribe, all of that, we would really appreciate it. And also in the comments, let us know things that you like, things that you don't like, things that you would like to hear more of, or ideas that you might have for us or questions that we can answer for you.
And then you also can reach us at engagingwhat.com.
Yeah. So with that, we're going to be wrapping up. And my name is Drake.
And my name's Rubie.
And we are
Signing out. Thank you, you guys. Bye.